when I left MCI to start my first business, and everyone was like, "What are you doing?" Like, it wasn't cool back then. But I would say I've probably been said no to more than anybody that I know. The more somebody tells me I can't, the more likely I am to be successful.
Welcome to the Masters of Business podcast with Daniel Beer.
Hey friends, we are back. Can't wait for this episode. We're with Brian Charlesworth, who has one of the biggest, most impact-making technology companies impacting the real estate business called Sisu. Brian Charlesworth, welcome, founder and CEO. And brother, I just wanted to today, we just want to have a conversation and just understand what's brought you on this journey, right? Like, how'd you start this business? And we have people from all different industries listening right here on the Masters of Business podcast across any industry you could really think of. And there's these common threads that we try to find and pick up on. And so you're in the tech space here. What brought you on this journey?
It's a great question. It's been a long journey. So, Dan, I have a background in technology, and when I sold a company, my wife, Spring, we've now been married 10 years. So, shortly after we got married, she basically, after I sold the company, she basically asked me to come help her build a real estate team. And she had 5 agents at the time. And, I was an entrepreneur. I'd built a lot of cool things. And, I honestly wasn't real excited about jumping into real estate, but I committed to do it for a year and a half. And I got to discover just a lot of pain points, in the real estate transaction process, in holding agents accountable, in, setting goals with agents, in just duplicate entry into many systems for realtors, real estate businesses like your own. And so I was really surprised. I was like, why hasn't anyone solved this problem? And as I dug into it, everyone who had tried to do it came from the real estate industry. They had a real estate background. And so they always went to spreadsheets to try to solve it. And so anyone knows that you can't scale something with spreadsheets, anyone in the tech industry, right? And like, it's just not going to be a long-term solution for anybody. So, there are a few teams like yourself that I found that were on Salesforce. My company uses Salesforce, but Salesforce is honestly too complex for most people in the real estate industry. And so we wanted to build something that was a vertical that just solved all the pain points for real estate teams and brokerages, and basically did everything except for lead follow-up, because there are a lot of CRMs out there that do lead follow-up. And so we went down the path of doing everything but lead follow-up for a real estate business like your own.
So what is Sisu in a nutshell?
We are a place where you can basically run your front end of your business. And when I say that, set goals with your agents, hold them accountable, communicate with Salesforce, or with your CRM. I mean, I know you have Salesforce, but communicate with your CRM so that you can track all their activities and hold them accountable to those, run sales contests, that kind of thing. So managing your sales team on one hand, and over here on the other hand, managing your ops team. So everything you need to do to get somebody from contract to close or listing to under contract, from the, Monday.com style boards to running all your tasks, all your automated emails, all that kind of stuff. So pretty much all your commissions, a client portal that lets the clients see the journey, which to me, I think is probably the most important thing. Like, if you're running a team today or a real estate business and you're not doing that, I think that's where you have a real opportunity to get left behind. Because, like, if you, Dan, order DoorDash today, which, do you ever order DoorDash? I'm guessing you do. Maybe not, since you're in the jet black world, but and he won't let you eat that stuff. But so what happened when you ordered it today?
I ordered my food. It was here, I don't know, 25 minutes later or so. It showed up. I overpaid, and they brought it right today. They don't always bring it right, but today they did a good job for me.
So what happened in the time frame between when you ordered your food and when it was delivered?
I was working.
Okay. Did you look at anything on the app?
Did I look at anything on the app? At some point, I put it all aside. I was working. At some point, I glanced over at the app to see kind of where the driver was, or if I'd gotten a notification to see if they had, had been picked up. Are they on their way? Are they nearby? The app said they were nearby. I could see they were like a block away, and so had my assistant go down and grab it.
Yeah. So you knew where it was at in that process of getting to you, right?
Right.
It's so important. Like, we as human beings have been trained that that's how we think now. It doesn't matter if it's a FedEx, Amazon, DoorDash, Uber, whatever it is. We know where it's at in that process, right? We know where we're at in the journey. However, here we are as real estate team owners or realtors, let's say, and any business owner, but real estate specifically, this is in most people's case the largest transaction they ever do in their lifetime. And we're not sharing where they're at in the journey. We're not sharing the roadmap of here's what's next. Here's what we just did. We just had an inspection. Now we're going to possibly have to negotiate terms. Then we're going to have an appraisal, right? That should be communicated visually for these people.
It's funny. I held a training just yesterday, and I said to them that if you're ever asked what's next, what's going on, what's the next step by the client, you're already losing. You're already well behind. You're losing, and you're playing catch up. And the words you should be religiously saying is the next thing you can expect, or the next step is, and just always having that, right, consciously. Now, that's me communicating as a human being, trying to do that and communicate it. You're saying that your software does that for you when you forget to do it for yourself, which is great. Now, you mentioned that something a moment ago caught my attention because as you were describing what Sisu does earlier, I'm thinking, well, why is this about real estate? Don't all business owners need this? Especially small business people, and especially in any kind of sales-oriented space. Is Sisu something you're going to keep in the real estate space, or are you looking at what other industries it can serve?
It's a great question. I don't have the answer to that yet. We're definitely open to going outside of real estate. We've been focused in real estate now for about 8 years because we know that it's to be really good at something, you have to be focused, right, in one area. So we've actually built the platform for mortgage. We've considered rolling it out commercial real estate. We've considered rolling it out to home builders. We've considered some other things as well. But at this point, we're just focused in real estate because we just want to be the best at what we do in this niche.
So real quick, because we're going to move on here to some of the challenges that are in front of you. But you said you sold a company in the tech space previously. What's the brief, kind of synopsis of what that company did, just so we understand where you're coming from in order to be able to produce something like this? And so what was that company in the past?
Well, the two companies I sold right before I came to this were actually Housemaster Home Inspections and Budget Blinds. But prior to that, I was in the tech space. I had a company called Talk2 Technology. It was the most fun I had ever had in my life before building Sisu, and now Sisu's equally as fun. But what we did, we were the first voice internet company. So the stuff that you do in Siri, Alexa, and Google today, by asking it to do stuff for you, asking it to play music, asking it for directions, weather, movie times, whatever it is, right? We were doing that in every mobile network back in the early 2000s.
Wow, yeah. I didn't know that. Really, really cool. So what lessons did you learn then that you made sure to bring forward? Like, what mistakes is Sisu not making that you had made in the past, right? I mean, I have to think there had to be some big learning opportunities and even exiting your first company and in building these companies.
Yeah, so many lessons. And I learn lessons every day, Dan. I think the minute we think we have it figured out is the minute, we fall behind because we stop growing, we stop learning. Probably the biggest lesson I learned from that was to make sure my investors are aligned with my vision and my mission. Because I should have had an extremely large exit there, and my investors wouldn't let us exit because our agreement stated that it needed to be 5x what they came in at, which was $100 million. And so they wanted $1 billion exit. So they walked away from a $350 million exit right after within 90 days of when they invested.
Oh, wow.
So you've got to make sure your investors are aligned with you on, what's the outcome we're all looking for? What do we want to build here? That kind of stuff. So I would say for an early entrepreneur, that's the most important thing. Don't take anybody's money. So at Sisu, we've actually intentionally walked away from a lot of different term sheets and tried to keep the fundraising to a minimum instead of, doing a 40 or $50 million round like I did there.
It's interesting, and even in the course of this podcast, we go back to previous episodes. There's been it's actually been an unexpected theme that's popped up, but just raising capital and so many mistakes that are made, right? Where you lose control, or you lose, in this case, you weren't able to execute that. And it's just, I emphasize that because it could be, I would imagine, Brian, that, earlier in your life, you might not have thought that would be a relevant topic for you at all. Maybe that's why you didn't have the coaching to be able to get the right investors that first time around. And so you had to coach yourself in a very expensive way now that is being applied, thankfully, a second or third time. But the reason I bring this up is that you're listening, and you have you're a dentist with one, two, three locations. You're a chiropractor. You're in pharmaceutical sales. You're selling whatever it is, whatever space you're in. Maybe you run a law firm. Maybe you run any kind of business, and you're not thinking in the moment about raising capital. And so you tend to ignore lessons that very quickly, as your business starts to pick up and scale. And it's just interesting. I never expected I've never taken capital or do anything like that, but I have been approached with people wanting to do so. Mm-hmm. And it just suddenly shows up, it happens, and you could end up just in the wrong space. So I just think this is it's been a good theme if you go back and listen to previous episodes of what to do. And you should expect you're going to run into this problem because you're listening to things like this. You're probably studying so many other things. You're learning, you're doing. And so you're going to grow more sometimes than you think you will. So those are some of the challenges then. Looking at where you're at right now, give us a sense of how big Sisu is, what kind of company are we talking about size-wise, and what are the challenges that a company like yours faces now, right? What's keeping you up at night?
Yeah. So Sisu today has about 5,000 teams on the platform. We have about 80,000 agents on the platform, something like that. And really, I think, as a leader, the thing that I'm always thinking about is, in order to get my team to the next level, my team has to go to the next level in order for my business to go to the next level. So in order to get my team to the next level, I need to grow personally faster than my team is growing. And so I'm constantly focused on growth, personal growth, so that I can continue to lead the business to the next level. So that's a really important thing. As well as that, just constantly looking at hardening the platform, making it better, easier, stickier, for our customers. Because, our major focus right now is getting our onboarding time from 3 months, which you can take 3 months. Some people do it in a week, but it can take 3 months for some people. My goal is to get it down to 2 hours. So fully onboarded in 2 hours. That's a big focus of our company right now.
All right. I'd love to unpack that. And by the way, I think, who is it? Is it John Maxwell? Is it Law of the Lid? And I think that's what you're referring to. So you see that one of the only things that could ever stop the company from doing what it needs to do. And by the way, this is true for all of you. The only thing that's going to stop you is you, right? And so you're just trying to lift your capacity in order for the company to be able to fill in and follow. So, all right, this is really good. So you want to go from a 3-month onboarding to a 2-hour onboarding.
Yes.
Where do you even start? What does that look like?
It's a great question. I mean, with Sisu, we're a very robust platform. So when somebody comes into the platform, the first thing we need to do, and it used to be I had people self-onboard. I didn't even have a support team, right, that did that for them. And then I realized, we're a pretty advanced platform. Like, we got to help these guys. Most realtors aren't the most tech-savvy people in the world, and we shouldn't expect them to do all their own data imports and, all that kind of stuff. So we hired and brought in a success team about 3 years ago to really focus on doing that. And at first, it was something we charged our customers for, and then we realized, hey, we need to make this a part of for every customer, right? It's not just a white glove onboarding. We need to do that for every customer. And so in going down that journey, though, what we found is even with our team, we could get somebody onboarded in 2 weeks today pretty easily, but it's a matter of them going out and getting data, doing a homework assignment, bringing it back to us, and then us implementing it, and goes back and forth. So really, I mean, our focus is we've completely rewritten our front end to make it more user friendly. And like we have an entire front end that is now 100% mobile as well. So like your agents can fill out intake forms when they put somebody under contract from their mobile device. But what that means is putting together something so that as the onboarding process starts, there's a step-by-step process of what they need to do. And it's just kind of self-directed. We'll probably always have somebody do that with them, a success person from our team. But if all it is, hey, put this data in here, connect to your CRM, just little stuff like that. We just make it really easy in a step-by-step
Now I'm
process.
referring to like you have this vision of let's go from a 2-month onboarding to a 2-hour to a 2-hour onboarding, and you might have said 3-month onboarding, right? So from 3 months to 2 hours, you pull together. I'm imagining people from your team, your executive staff, whoever it might have been. I'd love to. What I'm referring to is like, how do you communicate this to the team? Who are you pulling into that meeting? Their reaction has to be like, man, Brian's out of his mind. What's he doing? He's trying to kill us. And probably have some kind of mindset of this is impossible. So as a leader, and maybe anticipating some of that or all of it, how do you approach that? How do you get them out of this is impossible? Or is there something that's already ingrained in your, culture, your operating system that maybe kept them out of that, impossible mindset? But even the best, man, I have to think even the best, the most committed team, staff, et cetera, still had to look at you like this guy's nuts.
They've looked at me like that many times. However, we actually had an offsite last week in Arizona. We were down in our home in Phoenix, Scottsdale area. And we actually had this conversation. And, we had heads of every department. So everyone that reports to me and or my integrator, Frank, everyone that reports to us was in this meeting. And everyone agrees, like, we just need to make it simpler for the customer, because the main reason we would lose a customer is if a customer doesn't get onboarded and onboarded properly, right? There's some people who may use a small fraction of what we do, but if we can make it really easy for them to not just use the sales side or not just use the back office side, but use it all together so that somebody like you can be a better leader and have their metrics easily, it's a key thing. So I think everyone in my company, all the leadership agrees that this is a key thing that we need to focus on and get to. So that's, it actually wasn't a hard sell. Just something that everyone agrees with.
I still think, and it's a compliment, by the way, because I think if you're leading a company and your people don't at some point say, well, this guy, this lady, this gal is trying to, he's trying to kill me. Like, I'm never going to sleep again. What he wants is impossible. If that never happens, you're probably not pushing hard enough, right? Vision's not big enough. And then it's just interesting, man, how someone like, how you can take, it's really the job of a true, not just the entrepreneur, because the entrepreneur that person just has a great idea and develops a concept and maybe starts to generate some revenue. But this is called masters of business, because the mastery is in how you get everyone aligned with this quote unquote crazy idea.
Yeah.
And so it's really, really good. Go ahead.
Simultaneous to that, Dan, we actually rolled out EOS to our team, which I know you're.
I heard you say
with.
integrator a moment ago. How long have you been running on EOS? If you're listening, that means it stands for Entrepreneurial Operating System. Entrepreneurial Operating System. It's it's basically a system that a tremendous amount of small businesses are running on now.
Yes.
So you guys, when did you implement that into your business, and why did you choose to do so?
We've always had a very high level of accountability in our business. And, it's all performance based, and half of our team is in Utah and the other half is remote. So like we've always had a remote business, even prior to 2020. So we have to run our business that way. But for me, it was, okay, what are the things I really need to do to make sure everyone in our business is more effective? And just by adopting a more effective way of managing my people should help me, right? So it's once again, those things, Dan. In order for me, I've gotten to here. Now to get to here, I have to up my game, and that's part of it.
That's awesome. And I love how simple you just make it, right? Like, so in your space, it's a subscription model. People are paying you on a monthly basis to have your service, right? It's software as a service. It's a SaaS business, correct? Okay.
That's right.
So the number one, I think from the little bit I know in your space, the number one driver of success, of valuation, of you name it, is retention, or in other words, decreasing churn. So what do you focus on in order to increase retention or make people stick as long as possible? And I always like to just remind the audience, it makes no damn difference if you're not in the SaaS business. I am sitting edge of my seat right now waiting for his answer. I'm not in the SaaS business. It doesn't matter. There is an application and a truth to that retention. Is it retention of employees? Is it retention of salespeople? Is it retention of customers? Is it repeat customer frequency, which is a form of retention if you think about it? And how can I take what he's going to share into our business? And it's maybe even more significant for you and I, not in the SaaS business, because see, Brian has no choice but to think about this, and we'll get his answer here in a moment, and I promise you. But he has no choice as to think about this because it literally is the driver of valuation and basically the entire value of the company. It must have retention. Well, you and I can get away with not having to, we could get away with lying to ourselves without having to focus as much on it as people in the SaaS space. But what would it look like if you took something that they take that seriously and implemented it into your business? And for that reason, I'd love to know what is it that take us into that conversation.
There's two things we need to focus on, Dan, as far as retention. The first is just like you, retaining our team, right? That requires, to me, I've always been very, culture is a big thing for me, and I have a very open culture. I want anybody to be able to come with anything. We make everyone in our company read extreme ownership so that everyone knows at every level of the business they can make decisions. They're accountable for their decisions. They're accountable for the people that they, onboard. They're accountable for everything. Everybody has accountability. So that's the first thing. And second thing, I think open communication and dialogue is critical. So, we have a team meeting every Monday at 11 o'clock where everybody in the company comes in and we spend an hour together every week with open communication. Anybody can ask anything. Anyone can bring every question or recommendation to the table. So that's the team. As far as customers go, though, you are right. Churn is something we are always focused on. And in the real estate space, there are a lot of people, especially over the last couple of years, that have actually left the industry, right? So it's become more difficult than ever before. But even churn in real estate is higher than most areas because we're an SMB company, right? Most of our customers are small businesses, and there's a lot of churn in the real estate small business world. So, so that being said, one of the things to reduce churn is what I just talked about, making the onboarding process simpler, right? Faster, more effective, getting them using everything. Another thing, though, that we're focused on this year is just we've gone so wide. The platform has so many features. It's really an end-to-end platform with everything except for lead follow-up. Everything you need to do in real estate is in our platform. So now how do we go deeper? How do we leverage AI to make things easier, right? How do we let you, if you have a question, instead of having to go in and look at a report, just ask the question and get the data you want, right? So we're rolling out a bunch of AI this year to allow that. There will be AI involved with our onboarding process as well. And there's a lot of AI that we're rolling out around, lead follow-up and stuff like that. So I think this is really a year where we go much deeper with the product and make it easier for the users to get more from it.
So, Brian, when any company, and maybe it's even, seems like sometimes in tech, it's possibly more true, maybe not, it could be everywhere, where there's that pivotal moment, right, where it could have, if it didn't go a certain way, it wasn't going to happen. And I'm just curious if you faced anything like that. Was there a big pivotal moment where Sisu happened and became what we know it as today?
Yeah.
Because of something you can maybe pinpoint down to a that kind of event in the life of your
Because of
business?
challenges, right? Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. Challenges can make us give up and we can walk away and die, or we can get stronger from them. So, one of the biggest challenges we faced early on, COVID, right? COVID hit shortly after we launched the company. I guess it was a few years after. We really launched the platform in January of 19. So then COVID came around, and at that time, we were a sales performance platform, meaning we were real estate, we were leaderboards, dashboards, goals, gamification, but we weren't a back office platform, right? We had the vision of becoming that, but COVID forced us to do that instantly. Like, we had to do that to keep our customers. Otherwise, we probably would have lost half of our customers at that time. So anyway, that's really 2020 is the year that made us roll out, task management, transaction management, commission management, all the stuff that a real estate team needs on the back end as well.
So like for you to have had that vision to say, hey, this is our moment, we need to make this pivot, to me it implies some kind of like a muscle that you'd been exercising for some time, and toughness and perseverance and just business endurance, right? And the reason I say that is, like, if I were to answer that question myself about that pivotal moment, I'd take you back to the Great Recession, and I go and pay my rent, and there's no money in my bank account, but thankfully I'd had one of those checks that the credit card companies send you, and so I paid my rent basically by credit card or with a credit card check.
Mm-hmm.
And I faced this moment of, I better get out of this industry or take it seriously, right? I better get out of it. Like, the friends and family business is gone, so I better learn how to generate my own, or I need to get out of the way. So that was my pivotal moment. But point being, it was in tough times. You just immediately went to COVID in tough times. Others were there in the Great Recession. Others were there in COVID. I bet you have your own Great Recession story. Guaranteed you do. And I don't know it, but I promise you have one. Because for you to react that way in COVID and say, okay, right now is going to be where we actually lean in further, there's all the people that faced that same moment but cowered, right? Went back, got smaller, got scared, didn't have that kind of endurance. And I'm just curious where yours comes from.
Well, I've been an entrepreneur for, 25 years now, right? So long time. I remember when I left MCI to start my first business, and everyone was like, what are you doing? Like, it wasn't cool back then. It was not cool back then to be an entrepreneur, right? Now everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. But I would say I've probably been said no to more than anybody that I know. So, like, you can say no to me, or you can tell me I can't do it, and that just drives me to want to do it more, right? So the more somebody tells me I can't, the more likely I am to be successful.
Love it. Back in the day when I was training or just learning to be a salesperson, learning to develop my endurance as a salesperson, there was this, I don't know if it's still around. People can, you all can go and look it up, see if it's still there. It was called Go for No. And the idea was every salesperson is making a phone call or sales call trying to get a yes. But what do you get? You get no. You get no, 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 no. Multiply that by whatever it is, 20 times, 50 times, 100 times, and then you find a yes. So it's just like this stupid little website, by the way. I mean, there's nothing fancy about it. There's no tech behind it, but it was just this simple idea of go for no. So you'd make the call, you'd get a no, and you'd say, awesome. I called for this person to say no. They said no. Everything must be going right. Plus, I know eventually if I make enough phone calls that once I get 20 no's, I get a yes. So the fact that I got that no, awesome. That means I just need 19 more and then I have a yes.
Well, I would take it even further than that, Dan. If I get a no on a phone call, before I get off that phone call, I'm going to have to get 4 more no's, right? No doesn't mean no, right? It doesn't. It really doesn't. It means, so it's easy to say, I'm just going to play the numbers game, and I'm going to, if I have 20 calls, I'll get an appointment or whatever, right? That's one thing. But the other thing is, every phone call I have, I can learn from it, and I can improve my script. I can improve the way I present. I can improve my message. I can improve my company and learn from the things that people are saying no about, right? So if I take those not just as a no, but as a learning opportunity, then I can really advance my business. And I think, for a long time, I probably took things personal and got offended. But now, like, for me, if somebody says something to me, like, you could say anything to me. I don't care how derogatory it is. I'm not gonna. To me, that's not negative. That's I'm grateful to get your feedback, right? Because I can learn from it.
So how did that change for you? Because that gets in the way of so many people. I mean, there are talented people where their emotional intelligence is just destroying them,
Yeah.
where they can't keep the thing together. They think it's personal. They think, I mean, and it really limits them. Some of them are successful. Sure, you could probably think of some hothead who also has success, but how much more successful would that person be?
Yeah.
And so, and I've watched, different people over the years, and some of them being mentors, older than me, who there's a very clear like pattern. I would say there's a strong correlate, like just this. I don't know, I want to call it a correlation between how they all identify kind of this shift in maturity or in emotional intelligence, and from hothead to cold headed, like, right? So did you study through somebody? Did you learn? Did you meditate? Did you go sit with monks in the mountains? What did you do?
I wish I had a story I wish I had a Jesse Itzler story like that, right? But I don't. I've been to a lot of training though. In fact, just a month ago, I went to, or I don't know if you're familiar with William Lamb. He has a program called
No.
Upgrade.
What's it called?
It's called Upgrade.
Upgrade.
UPGRD. He's an NLP guy that has taken kind of NLP to the next level, not just as a sales trainer, but as a quantum thinking, right?
Cool.
So anyway, I spent 7 straight days, 10 hours a day with him just a month ago, just to learn, right? To improve myself, to learn, to be better at all those things. And even since then, this was just a month ago. Since that time frame, I've had so many things line up in my life, in my business, in my personal life, in my marriage, just from looking at myself, right? So I think so often, Dan, if something happens, there might be something negative, or we might judge people when we go somewhere. But one of the things I learned here, to even at a higher level, and I've always felt this, but I feel it much further, everything is intertwined, right? And so if I can look at everything as a mirror, so if somebody's coming back at me negatively, why are they doing? What am I doing to cause that? Because it starts with me, right? It's actually coming from me. Everything is a mirror of myself.
As an example of how intertwined everything is, it's also extreme ownership. The book that you just mentioned here a moment ago, it's really good. It's hard to imagine you getting quickly upset or anything. You actually have a very calming presence. So it's good. You could tell, you've done the work that we all look to do, that I look to do. And I very recently pulled, there was salespeople just saying not what they were supposed to say in a call and basically talking themselves out of the call. And I got really upset, and I think, well, there's no doubt about it. I'm very different than in the past, but for whatever, it got me. Mm-hmm. I pulled together 5, 6, 7 people that were on the sales floor, come into my office, let's listen to this. And I just didn't handle it the right way. Basically just kind of called this person out in front of their peers. And I'll be the first to tell you, like, as soon as they walked out of my office, I was like, oh man, I really messed that up. Like, that wasn't good. I called the person, I said, I apologized, and it stuck with me. And I still hate the fact that it happened, but there's a, self-awareness is, you can't do anything you're discussing or improve any of what you're discussing or even approach everything. I hear you approaching a lot with your level of success, which is vast, but still approaching the day-to-day with that white belt mentality. And it takes a certain degree of self-awareness to understand that you could be at this level of success, or this or this or that, or you name it. And you're still kind of like, in the grand scheme of what this universe can offer, you're kind of still a peon, every one of us, myself included.
Yeah.
And so we come to learn.
Like, here's the thing. As soon as, first, let me quote Tony Robbins, progress equals happiness, right? If you make progress every day in your life, that's what makes you happy. Progress and contribution, right? So if you can make progress and contribute to other people's lives, that's what drives us. That's what makes us happy. And the minute we think we've arrived, the minute we start to coast, you can only coast one direction, and that's downhill, right? So, like, people ask me, like, what are you going to do after you sell Sisu? I'm going to build something else, right? Because I have to keep growing. The minute I let my foot off the gas, I'm dying, right? That you're either growing or dying.
People actually die.
Which one is it?
Shortly after retirement, like they do die.
Yeah. Yeah. Who wants that? I mean, that's not what I want. If you look at Warren Buffett, how old is he? Do you think he needs to work?
Well, you could probably get away with a vacation day or two.
I'm sure he takes vacations. I'm not saying not to vacation.
No, being facetious. I'm just saying, I don't think the guy needs to work.
Play hard, enjoy life, and at the same time, make sure you're constantly growing. And I think a big part of Upgraded also is, a lot of times we think the solution is always to work harder. But it's not. It's actually to work smarter.
So you recommend that program? I'm going to check it out.
Yeah.
So
you should.
What's your, I find that most successful business people, there's some kind of, I think all people have their superpower. Successful business people have found a way to spend the majority of their time in their superpower, right, in their business. And so what do you specialize in, right? For example, you can do so many things right well. There's no doubt about it. I'm sure you could do everything from the front of the house to the back of the house and do it pretty well, but some of it's going to be painful for you. For example, I think what I'm really, really good at is marketing and sales. What do you think your superpower is?
Yeah. My superpower is being able to see the future.
Okay. Let's unpack that. So is it just for clarity, without mushrooms, LSD, or ayahuasca, correct?
Correct.
Without any of that, we're seeing that. All right, good. I just wanted to.
I'm not saying see some physical thing happening in the future.
No, I'm just messing around.
Teleporting. I might be able to teleport. I'm learning that, but that's not what I'm talking about.
No, I'm messing around. I love it. What's his name? Abraham, the marketing consultant. Tony Robbins Jay Abraham.
Yep. Jay. Yep.
I remember he has a book called The CEO, something like The CEO Who Sees Around Corners. Right. And that's what you're referring to. So what does that mean to you when you say you can see the future?
I mean, if you looked at the first company that I started while Steve Jobs was putting this little thing together, which this is my symbol, by the way, we could talk about that another time. But while Steve Jobs was putting together the iPhone, I was actually saying, hey, the way the internet is going to be done is through the voice. Now that's evolved, right? Here we are, I was 25 years ahead of my time, actually, or 20 years ahead of my time. And even with real estate, I mean, the stuff that I'm building at Sisu is, like I talked about our client portal. In my opinion, if you don't have that in 5 years, you're not in the game. You're not in the game. You'll be done. People won't come back. And imagine having an experience, Dan, where you have this amazing experience with an agent who's using something like that. And then every Wednesday, when I did listings for a while, every Wednesday I would meet with all my listings and say, okay, here's what just happened. Here's what's up next. Now they're doing that with the client portal, right? Now they're saying, okay, here's what we just did. What questions do you have? This is what's coming up next, right? It's all there visually. So imagine having that experience and all your documents are in front of you, in there for you. You can communicate with anybody just through there really easily. And then all of a sudden you go to an agent that does it the way people were doing it 20 years ago, right? You're not going to go back. You're going to do it once and you're going to say, never again. I'm sticking over here, right? Yeah. So I mean, that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. So, I mean, I've said since I started this company, teams are the future of the real estate. If you're not on a team, it's very difficult now for an agent to get into this business and not be on a team, right? It's very difficult for a brokerage to stay alive the way they run an unprofitable business. So if they don't shift and become a team, they won't survive either. So Just things like that. I believe I know where this business is going to be in 10 years, and we're going to have a major impact in that.
Hey, finally, before we let you go here, or actually, hold on a moment. Let's go backwards here. You said we could discuss your symbol at another time. This is another time. That was a minute or two ago. What is that?
Well, this,
And by the way, you might be listening here on Apple. You might be listening on Spotify. We also have this all on YouTube. So our YouTube listeners will be able to see what he's showing us, but he'll describe it. What are we looking at? We're on your phone.
well, this is just something that I talked about that training I did a month ago. This was programmed. There was some programming that happened within me that is, that's my symbol. I created it when I was in that training, and it means a lot to me. It's not something I could ever describe to you what it means, but there's a tremendous amount of meaning behind it. And like I said, since then, like everything is just lining up for me.
Cool. From the
Well, let
upgrade
me say
program.
that, right? But yeah, there was a lot of programming of my brain. So we reboot. Like, you don't use MS-DOS anymore, right? You update your software. You're probably on a Mac. You probably update your Mac every so often. Are you on a Mac?
I'm not on a Mac.
You're not
Here
on a
at the
Mac.
office. I am at home, and I am here on the cell phone.
Okay. Okay. So whatever it is, you keep your software up to date though, right?
I keep my software up to date. Yes,
And if you don't, what happens?
it slows
It
everything down.
It starts to be really slow, right? If I didn't update this phone every time there's an update, after about 3 or 4 updates, it would be really, really slow. And there's so many of us in life that have been doing the same thing for the last 20 years. And like every day we wake up in the bed and we get out of bed, we go get our coffee, we do whatever it is. We drive to work and we drive the exact same direction without thinking like there's not even any new thoughts going into our brain. It's just the same experience 20 years in a row. Well, if we experience the same exact thing every day, 20 years in a row, there's no way we can grow. There's no way our brain can expand beyond that. And there's no updates going on in that brain, right? It's just, we're still operating on MS-DOS. So I just went in and got my brain upgraded, basically.
Damn, love it. All right, you sold me. So I'm going to go check this thing out. Real quick before we go is, I'd love to know from people like you, how do you identify when you're looking at what looks to be opportunity, but how do you differentiate between true opportunity worth pursuing and a distraction? Because they can look virtually identical. They can look just as good, just as juicy, yell at you, So I think that one of the common superpowers that the people that are so successful we have on this podcast that have is that they're really good at knowing what to say yes to, what to say no to.
Mm-hmm.
But everyone seems to have a little bit of a different approach to that, or a way they think about it, a framework, that maybe you're using, maybe you're not. And I just love to ask the question as one common question that I ask everyone that jumps on here.
Yeah, I mean, we all see the sirens, right? The sirens are going off. I call them the sirens, all the little things over there to get our attention. I had a coach 30 years ago, the first company when I was raising the $50 million. And, he used to talk about the sirens all the time. But I think the thing is, with where the world is today, the more we can really focus on a single thing and keep it simple, the better. So that's why I haven't gone outside of the real estate industry. Because I have to focus in a single place to be really, really good at it. The minute I get outside of real estate, am I still going to be able to do as great a job in real estate? I don't know. I've still got a lot of room to grow to get better in real estate before I can think about going outside of it.
So even in the space of real estate, though, I have to think there's just opportunities that are brought to you. Promote this, push this, add this, integrate with me. And there's still even probably inside of real estate, times you say yes, times you say no. Do you feel like you have a framework around how you think about that, or are you more geared by your gut and just your experience, and you tend to be right by just listening to that?
I mean, everyone should listen to their gut. I believe you call it gut. I actually call it my subconscious mind. My subconscious mind usually knows better than my conscious mind. So my subconscious actually knows me better than my conscious. So if I can relate to my subconscious, now I can actually get those answers. However, like if it's something like you said, integration, like I'm just going to base that off how many customers do we have that want this, right? If there's a large number of customers that want something, I'm going to do it. But then I have to look at the future. There's a lot of things that with AI, like what do we want to do with AI? And I need to then be able to determine, okay, what's going to provide the most value
Right.
for our customers, right? There's 100 different things I could do with AI. How do I prioritize those? That's really the biggest challenge. And you're right. It's a challenge. We have to be able to say no to so many things to really have the best product.
Well, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this. This is Brian Charlesworth, founder, CEO of Sisu. And by the way, he's here giving his time. I'm giving my time. We produce all this content for you. We ask nothing other than for you to just go subscribe. Whatever channel you're watching, whether it's YouTube, Spotify, Apple, go subscribe. Hit the like button if there's a like button on your platform. The reason being, it helps the algorithm understand that there's valuable content here that it should share with other people. And so our only ask is just take that simple step so that it will get pushed out to more people that can benefit from it, and that we can continue to grow this. We have amazing plans with this podcast, and I have some guests that are just lights out for you. As you've seen, we're going to continue to bring it. Brian, thank you so much. Go connect with Brian. I'm sure you can find him on Instagram or on the socials, and we're going to be watching the future of Sisu, where it heads, how it continues to develop, what you do with AI. And heck, I can imagine a very interesting AI conversation with you in the future if we might have you back. So, Brian, the entire world here of Masters of Business, really thank you for having been with us. And I look forward to seeing you on a personal level.
Thanks, Dan. It was a lot of fun, and I'm happy to come back in a year and talk about where we've gone.
There you go. All right, guys, we're out.